Your Excellency, Ambassador Lukman Al-Faily, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for opening the Berlin Economic Forum with your excellent keynote address and the chance for us to discover many of the opportunities for tourism and investment in Iraq. It's a pleasure to have you here. If you'd agree, I'd love to ask you a few follow-up questions regarding also cultural diplomacy in your speech. As you may know, cultural diplomacy didn't exist as an academic field before we created the first master's programs, MBA and PhD programs in the world. The practice existed for a long time, British Council, Alliance Française, Goethe Institute. My question to you is, how important do you think it is to have this academic field for cultural diplomacy? We were discussing earlier, foreign policy, of course, has three pillars: the politics, the economics, and the culture. How important is the academic field of cultural diplomacy?
I think overall it's gaining more momentum. There is more understanding the issue of connectivity of people, not just profits, not just the understanding of power. So in that sense, the linkage of culture with politics, with a tool of communicating between nations, societies, businesses, is gaining ground. Although we now have a more open world in relation to global village or whatever term you want to use, understanding the culture, understanding the intelligence of the culture, understanding that linkage is becoming more important. So it's no longer tools of connectivity in relation to technology, but also in relation to understanding each other's drivers, each other's fears, each other's concern moving forward.
And as you were saying before, it's also linked to the economic bridge. The better the culture diplomacy, usually also the better for business. The more we understand the culture, the easier it is to have investment and trade.
And unfortunately, with the tension rising and others, we have more need for them, unfortunately. So in one way, the tension is increasing in the world, competition is increasing, friction is increasing. On the other, we have multipolar world and moving toward that direction, which does mean that we need to have better bridge of understanding each other, more efficient bridge. So I hope that cultural diplomacy provides a more efficient channel between societies and communities and businesses.
Definitely. I'd love to ask also a few questions about Iraq. So when we talk about cultural diplomacy, usually this is a way, let's say, to tell Iraq's story to the world or to build those bridges unilaterally, bilaterally, multilaterally. How do you see the importance of cultural diplomacy for Iraq within the region and also within the globe? And are there different strategies for cultural diplomacy within the region of Iraq and in the international level, let's say USA
in
or
one
Europe?
way, post-2003, Iraq opened up to the world after the Iron Curtain of Saddam Hussein rule for 35 years. So on the other side, with the friction of terrorism, with the issues of security concern, thereafter with Daesh, ISIS and others, there is more need for us to link the bridges with our communities so that they don't see Iraq from the prism of security, more from the prism of society, like what we talked about today in relation to tourism, in relation to other connectivity. So to that effect, the rich culture of Iraq does need to open up more to win the hearts and minds of others and not just fear, sort of lay the fears of others in relation to security. It's also a vast country with many resources, human resources and natural resources. So to that effect, we do need to reach out. Maybe more to our own immediate neighbors so that they no longer view Iraq in this old paradigm or post-American occupation stroke liberation. Maybe they need more of that. And we certainly need to reach out to the world because now countries are busy with their own issues. They don't, 20 years after 2003, people say, okay, this is a rich country, they need to look after ourselves. We still need a lot of help in relation to technology transfer, mindset opening up with the legacy of wars, legacy of dictatorship. We need to unshackle ourselves of that.
Okay. In that framework, let's talk specifically about European Union-Iraq relations. Where do you see challenges, opportunities? Where can one do maybe more cultural diplomacy within the EU-Iraq relations?
In one way, Germany is, if you look at Germany, for example, Iraqis respect, admire Germany because of the history and so on. And it's not linked, in one way, ironically, it's not linked to colonialism. It's different to other countries. Also, that has meant that the political cost for our political system to deal with Europeans is easier. We don't view this post-American 2003, and it's not linked to this competition, the Cold War of a type going on between China and US and others. So Europe could be a safe option in that sense. There's less political tax associated with it, and on the other, it's close proximity, it's technology, it's modern enough for us to utilize it better. However, we have the other concern, which is the European view of our region, which is the tension going on in our own region. Here we need to reach out to them, and they need to hand over they reach out to us as well. Europe should not view the region from tension or migration or terrorism. We should not view Europe from a colonialism perspective. We need to have a better understanding that we passed this issue. We need to have a more futuristic orientation than past orientation.
Okay. And that has to go in both directions, as you said. So the one side has to get to know the other, vice versa, breaking stereotypes. What is Iraq today? What is European Union today? So I agree, I think.
There is an issue there. There is an issue of migration. There is an issue of how do we deal with that in a more controlled manner. There is an issue of the close proximity of one to each other, which meant for some time the Europeans thought they are in isolation, they're safe. Unfortunately, with the Ukrainian situation now with Gaza, they are discovering that they are part of the globe, and they need to link to the other parts of the globe, including Middle East.
Definitely. Okay. So to summarize, as you know, the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy organizes events from around the world. We also just had the big Munich Security Conference, as you said. Your Prime Minister was there. How important do you think it is for Iraqis to participate in such international gatherings? And what do you think are the main opportunities when they're there?
One aspect is get better exposure of what's going on in the world, understand better the priorities of other countries, what are the drivers, what they fear. We now have, Iraq is a mainly oil-producing country, and now there is a move to sustainable, green energy, renewable energy. We need to have a better sense of that. Otherwise, we will be out of date in our economical model, in our futuristic. Also, we need a new technology for development of our own infrastructure. So to that effect, we do need to know who are the efficient partners, who can work with in the various sectors we want to develop. Thirdly, Iraq is a big country, 40 million, geographically not far off. Historically, it was important. We don't need to define Iraq to the other countries. We need to give them an update where we are.
Right.
They understand the country, but we need to give them an update.
Complete the picture.
Of our aspirations, our needs, our what are the key issues, our youth. I talked about hope. How do we give hope to that people? On the other side, we can provide a lot of resources needed for the country, whether it's gas, petroleum, other resources. It's a very rich. Geographically, it's an important country. We could be the bridge. We're democratic. We need to learn better about democracy ourselves, better governance, and maybe we could learn more from the European, how they have the European integration as a project for us to bridge with other countries of our own nation, our own region.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, it sounds very good. We really appreciate your time coming for the keynote presentation and for the conversation. We look forward, inshallah, to much more collaboration with the Embassy of Iraq and with yourself.
All the best with your institution and your project.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.